Hello, my name is Eric Hollinger, and I'm a student in Professor Dan Close's communication class. And this is what's happening today. We'll be visiting the Bohemian Hills Corn Maze. The maze is located on the John Darrow family farm, just 11 miles south of Glasgow, Kansas. Owners John and Pat Darrow have been operating the maze since 2005. We'll talk with them, their family members, about the maze, the homestead, and some of the mysteries surrounding the Bohemian Hills Corn Maze. We're joined by owners John and Pat Darrow from Glasgow, Kansas. Welcome, John and Pat, and thank you for having us out to the Bohemian Hills Corn Maze.
We're glad to have you. I'm happy that you would come out and help us, especially on the scare night. So this is the 9th year that we've had it, and it's been very successful for us.
So how did the corn maze begin? Was it someone's specific idea?
Well, like I said, we saw the signs there for the Bueller Corn Maze. We were living in Garden Plain at the time, and I got on the internet and researched some about the corn mazes, and we had a small acreage here that we started with, and for the first year, and just to try it, and it seemed to be successful, and people liked it, so we continued on, and we've added a lot of things to the maze in the area.
So the corn maze is obviously on a farm. How long have you been running the farm here?
Well, the farm actually was homesteaded by my great-grandfather, and then my grandfather lived here, and my folks did, and then we took over. So 1884 is when the farm was homesteaded, but we've been here about 50 years.
Okay. What do you like most about running the corn maze?
Oh, probably the people and seeing the kids enjoy themselves, and people are enthused about going through a corn maze because there's not one in this area. So seeing the people satisfied, I think, is probably the biggest thing for us.
And speaking of the people, how many people would you say on average come to the corn maze every year?
Oh, probably anywhere from 600 to 1,000. We've had some couple of really good years, and we've had some years where the weather hasn't been very cooperative, so it's kind of difficult for people to go through the maze when it's very wet.
Okay, we just completed the scare weekend here at the maze. Whose brainchild was it to bring people out and scare people?
Well, I don't know.
Kim's.
I'll answer it.
So it was probably Kim's, and Kim is your...
Kim is our daughter, and her and her husband Chris come up quite often through the summer and help us some, and it was her idea to maybe have people in the maze on the final night, 2 nights to scare the people going through the maze.
So like your ancestors, this was a family affair.
Oh, absolutely, and. We also have other people come and scare. Chris's brothers come and help us, and then they usually bring some friends with them. So it's been a family affair for us, yes.
So here in northern Kansas, I mean, besides the maze, what are some of the draws that people would want to come up here to northern Kansas for?
Well, there's several things in the area. Concordia has a theater that is pretty well known in the area, and Minneapolis has one of the famous museums. What's his name?
Jetty.
No, the guy that...
Oh, George Washington Carver.
Yeah, George Washington Carver lived in Minneapolis, and they have a lot of expose about him in the museum.
Would you agree that northern Kansas is probably one of the most underappreciated watershed fishing points in the state?
Yeah, there's a lot of excellent fishing in our area. We have a lake up by Glen Elder, the Wakanda Lake, that has really expanded over the last several years. It's not a very old lake, and we have several state lakes in the area, and a lot of good pond fishing in the area. So people enjoy, I think, the availability of being able to fish in the area.
I know we certainly do. And what are some of the mysteries that surround the corn maze?
Oh well, my daughter thinks that there might be werewolves in the area. Several years ago, I saw a very big wolf or coyote in the area, and I kind of embellished the story a little bit, and she kind of picked it up, and she I think believed her dad. So that's kind of how that got started.
Plenty of fun can be had here at the Bohemian Corn Maze, as these volunteers have volunteered to exhibit the hay jump.
I'm Elena. I'm Nicholas. Come on! I'm Jill. I'm Eric. I'm Carlos. I'm okay. I'm Ashley.
We're here with Kim Hollinger. She is the oldest daughter of John and Pat Darrow, and we're interviewing her today concerning the Bohemian Hills Corn Maze. Kim, how long has the corn maze been open?
This is the 9th year. And we started with a 5-acre patch, I believe it was, and then we grew to 9 acres.
So if you had to characterize the corn maze, would it be an easy maze or would it be a hard maze to navigate at night?
At night, definitely tough. There's people who go in and they think it might take 30 minutes and it ends up an hour and a half later. My dad puts in a lot of dead ends. He didn't do that in the beginning, but then he thought about it and graphed it out and put in some dead ends, so it really takes people a lot longer than they think it would normally.
And you grew up on this farm, correct?
Yes, I did.
And we're about 11 miles south of Glasgow, is that right?
Yes, it is.
All right. Some of the other things around Kansas, some of the things around northern Kansas other than the corn maze that would attract people to come up here would be like what?
Rock City in Minneapolis, and there's a museum in Concordia, which is north of here, and then they put up windmills. There's maybe 100 windmills north of Glasgow, between Glasgow and Concordia. A nice attraction.
As a kid growing up in this area, what was it like for you to come out here to the farm during the summers?
We moved out here on Memorial Day weekend. My dad's a teacher, so then we would move out after school. We would live here for 3 months and move back in Labor Day weekend. Dad was a farmer, so as we got older, my younger brother drove the tractor, and then we had Mark and Amy, who are younger. I babysat them, helped cook, clean, but there's fishing. There was always good times. We just explored. It's just Mom opened the door in the morning and said, "See you at lunch," and my brother and I would have a great time together, and just loved growing up out here on the farm, being young. And I love bringing my girls here. They can't wait to get back to the farm every summer.
And your dad had mentioned that there are some mysteries surrounding the corn maze. Would you care to elaborate?
A little embarrassing, but being the oldest, I had to babysit. And so Mom and Dad would go out to dinner and a movie and get home after dark. And Dad once told me, before I was born, it's where the corn maze is now, above the house, and he went up there to check the wheat to see if it was ready to cut, and he saw something weird knocking down the wheat, so he got in his truck, got his rifle out, and shot it in the air, and he said it stood up. It was 4 feet taller than the corn, or the wheat at its highest, and it had teeth and claws and red eyes, and it growled at him, and then it got back down and ran off. He said he got back in the truck, came down to the house, got Mom, and went into town. It scared him so bad. Never told me that wasn't a true story. So there's a werewolf in the corn maze, and I was always scared to babysit and made the kids stay up with me until Mom and Dad were coming down the driveway. Then I'd say, "Everybody rush to bed." But that's the legend of the werewolf at the corn maze.
That's wonderful. And we're not, station is not too far from the Bohemian Hall, is that correct?
Yes, we're a mile and a half south of the Bohemian Hall.
And can you tell us what the Bohemian Hall is typically used for?
There's a lot of Bohemians in the area, people from Czechoslovakia, and it's a get-together place once a month. They have dinners, potlucks, play cards. Right now, I would say it's 75% people over 60, 65, 70. And so they're always trying to bring in the younger crowd to carry on the tradition. There's a dance there on Thanksgiving and Christmas that all the neighboring towns, the kids come out and listen to music and dance and have a great time. And that's been going on since I was in high school, and that's been 30 years almost. Wedding dances. My wedding dance was held there to Eric's brother Chris. And my brother had his dance there, as did my sister. So it's just kind of a family place to go. And there's a reunion there every September, Labor Day. And we go there and just have a great time. And it means a lot. Tradition, roots, being grounded. That's what this place and this area is all about to us.
That's great. We really thanks Kim for your time, and we continue to look forward to many more years of the Bohemian Hills Corn Maze here in Glasgow, Kansas. So we're back at the Bohemian Hills Corn Maze with Mark Darrow. Mark represents the 6th generation of Darrows to be here on the farm. And Mark, from your perspective, as a kid that has grown up on this farm and now a young man, what would you say was the best and maybe even the worst of that?
I've grown up on the farm.
Yes, I've grown up on the farm.
Oh, just learning how to work is the worst and the best, because as you're learning, you're not getting to go out and play with your friends. You got to come out and work on the farm all the time. But in the end, I get to travel around and do archaeology, and because of my work ethic, people like that.
Okay, speaking of archaeology, you graduated from Glasgow, is that correct, or Minneapolis?
From Minneapolis High School.
Okay, and then you went on from Minneapolis to
Bethany.
Bethany College, okay, and where's that located?
In Lindsborg, Kansas.
Lindsborg, Kansas, all right. How did you decide or gain interest in archaeology?
Well, just a few feet from us is the root cellar. And when I was 15 and 16, I just started, there's some limestones over there and limestone rocks, and I just started digging it out, and, found some pieces of plates and bottles, and found a little ironing iron, and I just got really interested in it. And when I was 17, my mom had read an article about a volunteer dig that Kansas puts on. And Historical Society and the volunteer group get together the first 2 weeks of June. My dad wasn't too happy because, that's when we're all, working ground and getting ready for harvest and all that. But, once I went that next year, there's an article in the paper, that just sealed the deal.
So off to Bethany you went, and you graduated with a degree in archaeology, is that correct?
And it was a contract major, but yeah, it was in anthropology.
Anthropology, okay.
Physical anthropology. That side of it is where archaeology resides.
Okay, and once you graduated from Bethany, can you tell us about your first posting as an anthropologist or archaeologist?
Well, a few years later, in 2001, is when I went down to Arkansas. There was an ice storm down there, and they needed a ton of land surveyed for archaeology before the loggers came in and logged the forest where all the trees were down. And then from there, I went to Wyoming, where we did, surveyed some of the Oregon Trail, surveyed a lot of where oil pads and well pads were going to go for oil, and all, pipelines and all sorts of stuff. And then it's progressed to about, at least 20 states west of Mississippi.
And how many years have you been?
Since 92 was my first dig, and then 2001 professionally.
Okay. And here in northern Kansas, then, as a kid growing up, what were some of the fun times or festivals that went on that, you know, kept you interested? Like Minneapolis days.
There is the main thing that I talk about in my travels is the fact that we have the Bohemian Hills Hall, the community hall that's up here, and you know, with going to after harvest festivals, you know, things like Cakewalk and all the weddings, and you know, playing bingo and the polka band, all that stuff is almost dead, you know, nowadays. You know, kids don't have culture and stuff like that, and that's the main thing. You know, Lindsborg has Hillings Fest, and there's all the other big celebrations, but but when it comes to growing up and everything, that was the main thing, main influence.
Okay, and about the corn maze then, what are some of the mysteries that surround the corn maze?
Well, on the website there, they mentioned the werewolf of Bohemian Hills, and I don't know if the parents had gone into that, but so back years ago when I was a kid, my older sister Kim was watching us, and she claims that she looked out the back window out where the corn maze is right now, and it was all wheat, and she could see something out there in the wheat, you know, walking, and just the top of it, and pretty soon it stood up and supposedly lunged at her, and then because it could sense that she was watching it, and then it just ducked down in the wheat and kept on walking. And ever since then, that the possibility of a werewolf or other things being out there has, you know, it keeps the children close and you know, from out wandering around. And so we warn people, you know, that the werewolf has shown his face or his shadow, you know, a couple times, but we warn people, you know, to stay in the groups out in the corn maze, and every year you can hear him.
Okay, and maybe I'm going to move the camera here, get a profile. Do you think maybe that werewolf might have been found?
Found as in?
Found as in your wonderful luscious beard. I have a few other questions for you, and your mother flatly denied these, but I want to get your take on them. She denied the fact that she had been involved in the Manhattan Project. What's your view on that?
I have no comment on that.
Would you care to comment about your own participation with a group called Christians in Action, also known as the CIA?
I have no comment on that either.
What about NSA activity?
What about it?
And DEA? The KBI?
They do wonderful work.
Flat denial, ladies and gentlemen. We obviously know what that means. Okay, well, Kim, if I'm an out-of-towner and I'm not really sure how to make my way into wheat country here, how can I find out where to come?
Well, 8 years ago I created a website. It's called bhcornmaze.com. BH, of course, is for Bohemian Hills. And you can go there. It tells you everything about the maze. It has pictures because they have an airplane company, Kansas Aerial, that flies over and takes a picture of the maze every year, and I post that on the website. There's testimonials, there's a flyer, talks about the food, everything that we do, the times, the price. So it's a really informative website. And I've been asked this year to possibly do a Facebook page, so I'm going to check into doing that for next year, so you can like and then follow the Facebook page as well.
And this concludes the video essay of the Bohemian Hills Corn Maze. I got to tell you, I learned a lot about how to make a video essay and how to run a camera and how to write a script and how to just enjoy a mass communications event.